Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Nico and Jaakko of Marianas Rest to talk about the upcoming record, Fata Morgana, out March 12th on Napalm Records. How are you guys doing?
Well, fine, thank you.
Yeah, the work week is behind us, and we're having a few beers, and I had a long cold period here in Finland, and now it's beginning to, we are having a few plus degrees, so feels like maybe a bit like spring.
Yeah.
Same thing here. We went through a couple of snowstorms in Canada and Toronto, and now today it's sunny outside. It's a little bit warmer. You can almost wear shorts. You know, for guys like you and us that are used to this cold weather, when it's like -1, you could wear shorts.
Yeah, or you can not wear any shorts.
only in the sauna. Only in the sauna. We'll do that only in the sauna. Now, I have a bunch of questions for you guys about this new record. And perhaps the first one on my mind is, does it feel good to finally get the recognition you guys deserve and get signed to a major label like Napalm Records?
Well, yeah, definitely. Although I must say it was a huge surprise that they signed us. I mean, it's actually a very funny story how it all came about. I mean, we were having a few beers, maybe I think it was a year ago.
Yeah, a little over a year
ago. Yeah, and we thought that, well, we should start looking for a label or someone to publish the new album. And we didn't have any songs at that point, new songs, so we thought that, well, let's just send some of our old material and see what happens. And I remember some of us, you in particular,
yeah, I was strongly against it.
Yeah, very much against it. And after a few beers, we were able to talk him to it, and he sent the old records to a couple of labels, Napalm included. And well, they contact us back, and they said that the material is good, but they want to hear some of the new demos once we get some recorded. And well, we did the demos and sent them, and then there was no reply. I mean, like
couple of months.
Yeah,
maybe.
couple of months, until one of us luckily went through our junk mail folder and found Napalm's reply over there, and we thought, oh shit.
We blew it.
Yeah, these guys, they can't reply to an email in a month, so oh shit. But luckily they were on board still, and we were able to go ahead with the signing.
Did the signing to Napalm Records cause a little bit of extra pressure for you guys to put out a record better than, I mean, you always strive to put out an album better than the previous ones, obviously. I mean, that's the most obvious thing. But yeah, knowing that you're going to release it with Napalm Records, did that add extra pressure to the process?
Maybe it's a bit odd, but I don't think so. We didn't think about it that much, and because it was so, you know, far away. Napalm is one of the labels we grew up with. We have listened to their bands for a long time, since we were kids, and although they were interested, we still I didn't think that they would sign us. So
you're very optimistic.
yeah, we are typical Finnish attitude. Yeah, we suck and nobody likes us. But then the pressure came actually when we started to negotiate the contract, and then you kind of started to realize that, oh fuck, someone is actually going to hear these songs. So, but it was too late then. So, but luckily. The record is, I think we managed to make it a little bit better than the last two ones. So
yeah, I'll get into that. I'll be the judge of that, but I'll let you guys know. I'll let you guys know how I feel about the album. But before we get into the nitty gritty of the record, I thought the title of the album was really interesting. Fata Morgana. You actually made me go on Google and search what Fata Morgana was, because I had no clue. I thought it was a girl that had some weight issues. So I went on Google and I was like, wow, this is a very deep title for a record. Like, so what is your Fata Morgana? Is it success?
No, it's kind of, well, the album tells, it's a last part of a trilogy in a story, and our main character, he has kind of went through a whole lot. He's become hollow and feels lonely in a world, and then he breaks down on the second album. And on this album, he takes a long journey to a very cold place, and along the way he ponders why everything has turned the way it has, and he figures somewhere along the way that his vision has been kind of distorted all the way, and that has affected every decision he has made, or she, doesn't have to be he. Anyways, then he realizes that the cold of the world has distorted his vision, and that's our Fata Morgana. Sometimes you think you see things clearly, but after a while you start to look back and realize you've never made the right decisions, and your vision has been compromised.
Wow, really interesting. I like your approach. I like your way of thinking. This record, the first thing that I noticed when I started listening to this album is that it felt very differently from the two previous albums. And I felt like with the two previous records, you guys were a little bit more all over the place as far as the soundscape was concerned. There was not a clear path from the first song to the last song as far as what your sound was going to be. On this record, it's super tight from the first song to the last song. There's a clear understanding for the listener exactly what do you guys want, what the path is. Where did this better definition of sound come from? Is that driven by the story, or is you guys understanding where you are and what do you want from your music?
I think it has more to do with we have released 2 records, and even all the pandemonium that was going around, we were able to make full cohesive records. So at this time, when we started recording or writing the songs, we knew that it would turn out fine, no matter how we approach it. And we were able to just be way more relaxed and just focus on the music carrying itself, I think. And also this time we made the conscious decision not to push the songs in any direction. If something felt lighter than it was before, then fuck it. It is what it is. And I think we managed to drop out a bit of those death metal cliches from this.
Yeah, we didn't force like blast beats or double bass where it didn't belong. Maybe we did that before. We just had to make kind of, this has to be darker, heavier, and that sort of stuff. And now we just maybe had a bit more confidence that it would sound like us, even though the songs were a bit maybe lighter, at least in the demo parts. And in the end, I think it's the atmosphere that counts, that makes it heavy or not heavy. And now we didn't break the mood. We managed to, I think the record mood stays overall the same. Yeah.
And,
so
and
maybe
I think that's a key factor for how good the album is because when you start listening to the record, the state of mind that you guys put me in with the first track is the same state of mind that it continues throughout the whole album, because the atmosphere is so consistent. The sound may vary a little bit from track to track, but overall you really feel like you're just being transported. It's smooth. It's not abrupt. And I felt with some of the previous records, one track would be very atmospheric, very doomy, if you will, and then the next one would be more death metal driven. So you're going from being all the way down here and then going all the way up here and then going back down here, and it seems very abrupt, but this one is super smooth across every single song. So I think it allows the listener to better understand what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think that's what we tried to aim for. We didn't have the words for it, but that's what we tried to do here, and it's great to hear if we succeeded. I think we tried to, because we have wondered a bit ourselves how everything went so smoothly, and we tried to figure it out with Teemu, the guy who produced the album, and he didn't have a master answer to that, but he just said that maybe he's gotten a bit better too. We know each other so well. We don't have to like communicate all the time. He knows what we're trying to accomplish, and when we don't have the right means to do it ourselves, he kind of takes us through. Don't do this. This is what you want. Take this.
This is what you want, and this is what you need. He's he's the guiding hand. With all the layers that this record has, what do you feel is the component that really drives the experience forward? Is it the guitars? Is it the vocals? Is it the atmosphere? Is it a mixture of everything?
Definitely the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's the key component.
Yeah, it's kind of like the songs are, and the parts, the components, everything is kind of simple. If you take the guitar parts, there are no kind of like virtuos playing there. If you take my vocals, you can get better from somewhere else, and so forth. But the way it comes together, I think that's the key. It's just everything goes well together, and yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think you guys are underselling yourselves, because I'll get into the guitar playing and I'll get into your vocals. I think those two elements really play a huge portion of the big picture in terms of what Marianas Rest is all about. You know what I mean? Like you guys are the perfect pieces to create the picture that it is this band. And I think with this record, I think you guys finally understood exactly what that picture needs to be. That's the impression that I get with this album.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe that's the real Fata Morgana.
You're right. Maybe that's it. Now, having said that, not all is roses. I thought, and maybe this is just me, but I thought an album like this, that it's so driven by the atmosphere that it has, that it could have really used one or two instrumental interludes, not instrumental tracks, like really long tracks, but like a 1 minute, minute and a half a minute kind of stuff, interludes to kind of guide you better through the tracks. What do you guys think about that? Because I felt sometimes the emotion of the record was so deep that like by the end of the album, I was like, oh my God, like I'm tired. Like it just taken all the energy out of me. And I felt that perhaps a couple of interlude tracks would have eased the path a little bit better. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we tried to make one. It's the fifth song, Horroksen. It was supposed to be a minute-long interlude, and somehow it's just kind of like we stretched it eventually to a 4 or 5 minutes song. But yeah, we kind of, I think we saw that. And tried to make maybe longer intros, and I didn't shout all the time and that sort of stuff. But yeah, definitely, I think you mentioned Ghost does something like that sometimes. I think you are probably right.
It's really a small thing. I mean, we're really looking at the details of the record. I think for most fans that will listen to the album, I don't think they're going to necessarily notice. Specifically, if you're listening it on shuffle or you're listening on Spotify or whatever. But I felt like if you're listening to this album and you really want to appreciate what this record is all about, it takes so much energy because it's so emotionally heavy. Like you said before, it's not necessarily heavy musically, but when you listen to this album, you feel the emotion that the album has, and it's a heavy emotion. It's a heavy burden that it carries. And I felt like having one or two interludes would just allow me to catch my breath, if you will, before the next track. It's a small thing.
Yeah. Are you writing this down? Fourth record. There will be.
It's all about learning and taking steps into getting better and better with every single album.
Yeah, but on the other hand, we try to make people feel bad, so
yeah.
I think you're trying to achieve a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You talked about the guitars. You short selling the guitars and you short selling your vocals. Before we go into the vocals, I want to go into the guitars. I love the acoustic guitar sound on this album. Every time you guys used it, for two things. First, I love the fact that you didn't overuse it. It's not like, oh, this sounds amazing, let's put it on every single song. That was not the case. So that's a really positive thing for me, because it didn't become repetitive. It became really exciting every time I heard it, because it's not like I was hearing it all the time. But the sound, the atmosphere that he gave to those tracks was absolutely phenomenal. When was the idea of including some acoustic guitars into these tracks came about? Was it during the creation of the songs, or more towards the end of when you were actually recording?
It was on the recording stage, and I really have to give credit to our producer on this one. I mean, he played the acoustics, I think most of it,
At least
if
most
not
of it,
all.
yeah. Yeah.
He's a genius.
Yeah, I think he saw, we tried to add layers, because the previous albums, they were a bit, if this kind of like feels you need a breather, those were even more so. So we tried to kind of add some depth to the songs and some layers that wouldn't feel like you had to kind of really listen to them to see them. They are there. Nothing that takes the whole like the spotlight of the song, but something a bit extra. And I think the acoustic guitar was one of the main key elements to that. We had cello before, and now we had two acoustic guitar, and of course Lindsay's vocals were very important too.
Yeah, and another element from the guitars that I really enjoyed was the feedback. Man, that was incredible. It was just like, I honestly, between the acoustic sound and the feedback on the guitar, the feedback was just outstanding, because it dragged the songs out. It made it feel like you guys were pulling my guts from the inside out. Like, it just had this guttural feel. It didn't make the songs heavier, but it definitely made the songs more painful. Like, it created a different atmosphere. Who's the guilty party for pushing that into the tracks?
I don't know who's guilty for it. I mean, I think for our music, it's important that the guitar tracks don't cut between parts. I mean, it's the modern way. You get very clean recordings and you chop them. And well, I think probably it was our producer who just left them in, but I think from the first note on, we just played the parts so that every time we played a part, we just let it ring and create. I mean, the sound was completely out of control when we recorded. It was so distorted, and I mean, we had some guitar pedals, some fuzz pedals from the 70s that were just on the verge of explosion. Played them, but it was so sweet, the sound that came from the feedback, that it had to be there. It had to be left there.
I agree. And I think it allows for you guys to, when you play these songs live, to have a much better continuity to the set, the way the songs sound, because some of that feedback that you guys put on the record, it almost gives a feel of a live performance, of a jam session. It was almost like I was in your garage and you guys are playing the track for me. Kind of had that raw feel to it. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, well, that's thanks. That's I think that's one of the nicest things you can say.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, and live as well. There was this part when we kind of like didn't realize that we cannot cut the atmosphere, the emotion. We just have to kind of like, there has to be something on the background all the time. Some atmospheric sound. You cannot just like cut the songs, and I cannot make jokes between songs, which sucks big time because I have the best jokes. People were angry at me after the show. Why did you have to fuck this all up? I was in a good place and you had to tell a lame joke. Maybe we are not that smart. Somebody has to tell us these things before we realize.
I've had the pleasure of seeing you guys live, and I think one of the key, some bands you kind of want them to break in between songs. You guys, the way your music plays out, you almost want to listen to it nonstop from beginning to end. You want one song to merge into the next. You want that song to merge into the other, and so forth as you progress through the set list, because your music really has this deep atmospheric, deep emotional drive to it. And I think if you cut, or if the songs cut, then you kind of cutting that connection. You're making me reset every time you start a song. So I thought you guys did wonderfully with this record, keeping the continuity of the sound, and the guitar feedback was a huge element of that. And I think it plays perfectly well to how you guys played live, because when I saw you guys live, you weren't telling any jokes.
Yeah, that was after we kind of had this long talk about what we should do and what we should not do.
Yeah.
So I think you guys finally got it. And we talked about the guitars. Now it's time to talk about your vocals, because like I said earlier, you were short selling the guitars and you were short selling your vocals. I felt like your vocals were super consistent on this record from the beginning all the way to the end. You're one of the drivers of heaviness to the album, because I felt overall the album sound-wise is not super heavy, but it needed some weight. And I felt like your vocals were always there to add that heaviness to the record. Was that your goal from the beginning going into this album?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's one of the things that we kind of, if we have a lighter kind of sound, then we just, because I cannot sing clean vocals, it's not even on the table. So we know that after I mangle the songs, they will sound like us. So yeah, but well, I think I've gotten a bit better on each album, because this kind of, I didn't do this kind of stuff before we started as a band, and it has taken me a few years to kind of learn the tricks of the trade, how to do the more growling thing. I was a bit more screamer before this, and now I've gotten more consistent, and we know everything went well in the studio. Well, actually, I get sick every time I don't know if it's a stress or what it is, but every fucking time I go to a studio, I get ill. And nowadays we don't even take pressure of it, because we know it's coming, and then we just kind of like reorganize the whole thing. And I remember when on a couple of previous albums, Teemu was like, "Oh, everything is going to hell. You're sick. We cannot do this." And now he was just like, we are going to pull this through anyway. And then we just took a few days off, and he made other stuff, and I continued, and everything went very smoothly after that. But yeah, that's the kind of, that's what we try to kind of, we try to be more consistent and coherent in every aspect on this album.
And I really think you guys achieved that. But and when you look back now, the record is around the corner. I mean, March 12th is 2 weeks from now. A week from now, the album is going to be out. Everybody's going to have a chance to listen to it. So when you look at the work that's finally done, what was the most challenging aspect of putting this record together? Was there one thing that sticks in your mind that, man, next time we do an album, we can't do it. We can't do this.
That's a difficult question.
Yeah, I don't think there was like this one big thing on this album. On the previous albums, there was. We had major difficulties. You mentioned the sound going all over the place because the songs were so different. It was hard to kind of put it all together when mixing. But now we kind of learned from it and made the songs more like they are brothers to each other. So yeah, we could avoid that. I don't think we had, everything kind of went smoothly and like in a natural way. We didn't have to think about it too much.
I think we should learn to play our instruments a bit better. Think about it.
I think you guys are becoming a well-oiled machine. You guys are really moving in the right direction. And that takes me to the last question that I have for you guys. I always feel like every record for every band, regardless of how young or how long they've been in the business, every record is a little bit of a stepping stone, is the next step in the evolution that the band is taking. I felt like this album for you guys was a leap. Never mind one step. I think you guys just jumped like a bunch of steps with one record. Is this something that's going to give you the energy or give you the know-how or the direction that, okay, now we know this is exactly how we need to make our records come together, and give you the energy and the strength and the knowledge as you go forward into the fourth album, into the fifth album?
Yeah, I think this time, because we managed so that we let the songs build on their own, I think we can now rely on it, that it will turn out fine in the future also. So it kind of takes a lot of pressure out of the writing session. So we can just sit down, play some tunes, and work our magic, and hopefully it turns out fine.
Yeah, but at the same time, it kind of, I think, well, because this is an end to a chapter, we have to begin a new one on the next record. We have to have a new concept, like story-wise, and of course, it's kind of, you always have to evolve into something, to some direction. You cannot stand still. That's when everything starts to go sour, and maybe that's the thing that kind of like freaks me out at this point. Where are we going to? We have to kind of like try to make the next album a bit better. And on the after the last album, I think all of us knew what it was going to be. But now, as you said, that this is, I think this is a leap for us, and now it's harder and harder to make the same kind of jump on the next album. So we have some figuring out to do, but as Nico said, there are a lot of things that good things that we can take from here, and have confidence, feel more confident about those things, and we can kind of relax a little bit and just try to think ways to improve even more.
At the beginning, I want to thank you guys for taking the time, but I just want to say one more thing. At the beginning of the conversation, I said that I would be the judge of how good this record is. I think this is the best album you guys ever released. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, could it have been better? Yeah, everything could always be better, but this is without a shadow of a doubt the best record, because to me is the more cohesive, is the album that feels like a whole album. It feels very together. It feels very tight. And I think you guys finally found your gears. This is your speed, your DNA is finally in this record. There's elements throughout the previous albums, but here is where you guys finally discover yourselves. I think this record is just outstanding.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You guys really did a wonderful job. I really have to commend you guys for the work that you did. It's not easy, and having a label of the size of Napalm behind you always adds a little bit of pressure, because more people are going to be listening to your music when this album comes out. And I think if you're going to introduce yourselves to a whole new audience, man, this is the album to do it.
Yeah,
well, thank you.
Yeah, hopefully all the other dudes and dudettes will see it that way too. I mean, at this point, I think we are shit scared about what the feedback is going to be. It's always you just want to crawl under a bridge and under some rocks and just wait to die.
Just wait for the storm to pass.
What?
Just wait for the storm to pass.
Yeah.
I think you guys did wonderful. If people don't appreciate this record and they don't see it how I see it, then the problem is on them. It's not on you guys, because the album is outstanding. You guys did a wonderful job.
Yeah, it's the listeners who are wrong.
Exactly. You guys were 100% right. Everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. All the best for you and the rest of the guys in the band. Say hi to everybody for me. Hope to see you guys in Finland at some time.
Yeah, hope to see you at Dark River or some other place. You're most welcome, and we will have a barbecue or something else.
Yeah. As soon as we're able to travel, you guys know how much we loved our time in Kotka. So as soon as we're able to travel, if not this year, next year, we're going to be there for sure. We'll have some drinks, we'll have some barbecue, and yeah, it'll be good. Some good times.
Yeah. Some popple.
100%. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks
Bye.
for having us. Bye.
Thanks.